Perfect. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Peering at the Outlands, this week hosted by the Chivalry. Hope that everyone has enjoyed watching all of the other shows as much as I have. Really a great opportunity to get to meet people a little bit more, get to hear some funny stories. We will certainly not be following Mr. Sabia's Variety Hour. She's just far too good for that. I'm not going to try to play that game at all. It's been fantastic to see so much involvement, especially during just these crazy times of the pandemic and everything else. Great seeing so many people, and I can't wait to see all of the art for Queen's Prize that just closed the other day. My apologies to Her Majesty. I had great plans, and I'm lazier than I should be. So I didn't get anything in, but if nothing else, maybe I'll try to do some art with the show. This month, I am joined by, and we decided we were going to stack all of his titles, so I'm just going to say Bardolf.
It's like share
it all. Knight of the Society, Promise of the Outlands.
That's true.
It was a very well-deserved so late in your tenure. First and foremost, thanks for joining and for talking with me this evening. How's everything going, man?
It really is an honor to be here. I'm really excited that this is happening and that I get to be a part of it. It's flattering to be asked.
And how's family doing? Like I know you got 2 kids now. I've only ever met one.
Yeah, most people have only ever met one. My daughter was born like the week that New Mexico was like, we're shutting down, nothing's happening anymore. So very few people have actually met my daughter.
And her name, if you'll be willing to share it?
Her name is Winona.
Winona, nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that you guys are all doing well. Keeping busy, staying out of trouble.
Yeah. I mean, you just stay in your house and look at your walls and watch your not paint. You should be doing something productive, but you don't. Everything's fine. It's great.
Okay. Before the show started, we were joking around and everything else, and I had made the comment that, wow, this is the 1-year anniversary of me actually putting on heavy armor, which is going to suck when I finally pull the stuff out, and I'm going to go, yeah, I remember this fitting a little bit better before. I don't know what's going on. Did it shrink?
I was just digging through my armor because I couldn't find my big chain because I thought I'm going to be on screen. I need a big chain so everyone can see it because people need to know why I'm here, which is, I don't know, it's dumb. But so then I was digging through my armor, which involved going into my garage, into the car that's in my garage, and then into the back of that car where it's still all strewn about from the last time I was at fighter practice. And it doesn't smell good. And so like when I see people posting about like, well, I made this new piece of armor or whatever, and like I've been doing all this art, I'm like, we don't have to come out of this looking better, do we? Was that part of the deal?
I don't know, Your Honor, sir. Should you come out of it looking a little bit nicer?
I will. I've lost some weight. You couldn't tell? How I didn't say.
I don't swing at those pitches, man. Because no matter what, I'm gonna fall on my face in that one.
Yeah. It's an uphill battle.
But no, you bring up a great point just in terms of the armor repair. Because I'm fairly certain a year ago, I was like, oh man, I think I'll finally replace that string that's holding my legs on that I put on 4 years ago before leaving to go to Duke Sean's house for a practice. That I just had to get it fixed for that day, and then I promised myself I was going to fix it.
Yeah. I have one new piece of anything, and that is because Duke Arton called me and said, "Hey, do you need a new white belt?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, mine's kind of falling apart." He's like, "Okay, I'll be by in just a minute, and I'll just leave it on your doorstep." Like, okay, thank you. So I have a new belt.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not even wearing it. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Well, we'll just take it on your word. We don't need you to stand up and be like, "Hey, everybody take a look at my belt. It's amazing."
Yeah.
Because you've probably been on enough calls where you haven't worn pants.
I am pro pants. I'm not. Yeah. I believe in covering your legs.
Okay. I was like, any kind of dignity the show had? Yeah.
Wait a minute. You brought me on here for dignity?
Oh, I mean, one of us had to supply it. I told you to bring it.
I left it at home.
Just go ask Sabia if you can borrow it for a little while.
Yeah, right. She's got a lot. She's overflowing with dignity. That sounded sarcastic, but I didn't mean it sarcastically. She really is.
So, much in the same way that, and I've found that as I was kind of writing up ideas for the show or writing about things that I wanted to ask you about, it very much unfortunately fell, and you've already laughed at me for the second generation thing, and we'll get to the second and third generation that you're providing, but I don't really know you. I don't know how long you, huh?
Is that weird?
Yeah. It's like, and I'll get to that in a second, because you immediately made me feel like friend and family, which I appreciated. But all I can say is, I mean, I bet he's been playing for a long time. I mean, the first time I met him, I think the dude had a shiny hat.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we were just saved or not from that comment. But so, okay, you grew up in the society. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, you're on the bio tapestry of the SCA's history in the womb.
That's funny. It's not me. So yeah. At 50th year, I got a lot of that at 50th year, because they had this really beautiful bio tapestry that was like historically accurate length, and it was telling the history of the SCA. For anybody who doesn't know, it's a really beautiful piece of art. I don't even know if there's pictures of it. I'm sure it exists, but so I don't even know who did it. We should know more about this stuff before we tell these kinds of stories. But
we should. But look at the number of questions that we give people the opportunity to answer, or to kind of go and investigate these things. Remember, any good science promotes more questions.
This is a good service. There is in the world, somebody made a Bayeux tapestry replica that tells the history of the SCA. And at 50th year, it was on display. And there is a portrait of the creation of the Outlands. And my parents are on it. And there are two people on it, and one of them is pregnant, because he doesn't look like my dad. It looks a little bit like my mom. But my dad is sort of famously tall and had really long blonde hair. And this guy doesn't have those features. But my older brother, whose name is Magnus, was the one who was in the womb when the Outlands became a kingdom. So I've been playing since 1989.
Okay,
which is Anna Societatis.
So that's another one of those questions. Is the counting system still going on, or was it just kind of someone pushed the pause button and they're like, "We'll get back to that later"?
Yeah, we just skipped a year. Yeah, I'm sure that happened in period too, right?
They can't even do that. Or I should say that they probably haven't done that, since there are other kingdoms that are engaging in activities. So my guess is that the clock still rolls on.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I love this. The other Sabia, the other Mr. Sabia.
My wife.
As I understand, your second gen. How has that affected your SCA here in the Outlands?
My parents were they cast a long shadow. My parents do. They are integral to the Outlands and parts of the Atenvelt history, as well as the society history. I mean, my mom wrote a lot there's a lot of rules that have been written and rewritten that my mom wrote the original version for. She was society seneschal for a number of years. She was she's done a lot. My father has done a lot too, and continues to be a lot. I don't know. It's fine. It's like people like to think that it's like a big influence on your personality. And like Germanicus was talking about wanting to break out of their shadow. And it's like, I felt that for a while. I sort of, for a while, resented the fact that people associated me with my parents, but it was like, everyone's going to make their associations. It doesn't matter whether you're related to them or not. Everybody kind of has that, well, how do I know you from? Well, you're sort of related to that guy over there that I know in a different way. So everyone builds their little connections in their head. And it used to bother me. The most impactful thing that it had on my life was while I was the Baron of Alberon, it was very difficult to get some of the old Alberon guys to not treat me like a child. And it was like, I'm an adult and I'm here legitimately, and you guys still look at me like I'm 6, and that's not great. I lost my microphone, but there it is. Okay.
You lost.
And
you can't hear us, but you're just going to answer random questions anyways.
I'm just going to go. Just go. Yeah. No, the other thing that I remember happening was in my vigil, I had a lot of people come in and ask me if I was going to swear fealty or not. And I don't think, I mean, I've never been in anybody else's vigil. I was about to say that, and it's just dumb and wrong. But I had a lot of people ask me if I was going to swear fealty, meaning that I was going to become a master of chivalry rather than a knight of chivalry. And I assumed that was because my father is sort of famously not a knight. And so I think they just assumed that I was going to be like him. And so at the time, it kind of irked me because nobody wanted to talk to me about why or why not I was going to do that. They just wanted to know if I was going to be like my dad. That was the impression that I got from the way that they were phrasing the questions. And that was a little frustrating because it's like, here's a moment where I am being me. We're talking about how I can be better, how the world can be improved by this ceremony, and they were still putting me in relation to my father. It's fine. I mean, I get it. For a lot of people, so much of the game is growing up with your friends, and so a lot of people grew up with my dad. Is what I mean to say. And so it's fine that people associate me with him. It's who I am. It's part of my personality. And anymore, we go to places and people recognize me or don't even realize that we're related until much later. So whatever. We've moved on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. It's interesting because coming into it without that kind of auspice or anything else, like I said, it's allowed me to go around and meet people all over the place, and for better or worse. And now it's just one of those. Oh, it's Finn. Great.
Yeah. Right. Right. Well, look. So, did you know that he was my dad? Like, how were you introduced to me that way, or like? Did you make that connection yourself, or?
He wasn't. You weren't introduced to me in that manner. Like, I'm fairly certain that you were Baron at the time, and I think somebody in passing might have been like, "Oh, that's Bardolf," or I looked at your name and could possibly put two things together.
Sure.
But I think you stood on your own, kind of thing, and it was also. You're probably talking to him, not me, but yeah. Thank you for your question.
But that's why you have to stack the titles to make sure you got to get enough of the titles in there. How many lords are in there before you can figure out which one you're talking to? Yeah.
That would be the best if it's just titles and you have to scroll down to actually see what the question is.
Yeah.
But so, okay, that actually brings me to one of the points is that, I would say our background is it was during Grim and Kita's reign, Colgrim and Kita's reign, and I was Queen's champion. Yeah, and it was the first Outlandish that I had been to. And so, drove down by myself, got to site.
Because you were there the night before they showed up, right?
Okay. I showed up, I think, the afternoon, and then they showed up much later that evening, kind of thing. Okay. And so, in passing, I had met a couple people, probably at coronation and whatnot. I was still new enough and hadn't really traveled around all that much, but I remember pulling in, and the first person that I saw at gate was Einar, and he was one of the first people I talked to at my first event. And so it was just one of those, oh man, this is great, coming down from the north to the south, which is not that big of a deal. And I've been very remiss in that I hadn't done it much before everything kind of shut down. Sure. After stepping down as King's champion, I kind of was like, and I'm not going anywhere for a little while.
Totally understandable.
Little did I know that I really wasn't going anywhere for a while.
Yeah.
But
that's not the first time we met, is it? I mean, I feel like when you became Queen's champion, I already very well knew who you were. But maybe that's true that was the first time we officially met.
Yeah, I think it was the first time in a hey, I haven't seen you in a while, how's it going kind of capacity.
Okay, sure.
If I'm remembering correctly, the first time I may have seen you guys was you drove up, the both of you drove up to witness Anne and Matilda stepping up to be Baronesses of Cairgalen.
Yeah, okay. Up in Pickle Gulch and
well, up past Pickle Gulch.
Yeah, right. What was supposed to be Pickle Gulch?
That particular event, I think it was like Uncle Charlie's Ranch of Doom, which was fun. Everything was uphill.
It was, yes, very, very, and very high up. We were up on top of a mountain, and everything was like that, and it was, it was a rough event.
For everyone that had breathing problems at Pickle Gulch, it was one of those, okay, and next we're going to run to the other side of the battlefield. What's this we?
Yes.
And so that might have been the first time, but no, so I pull into Outlandish and everything else, and immediately, I'm like, I don't know where I'm going, and you're I just see you going, hey, Finn. this way, follow me. And it was just an immediate hospitality, an immediate sense of like, I was grateful to be there and to see you guys. And I just remember, your smile, your laugh, and everything else, like, hey, welcome to Outlandish kind of thing. And so that was a fantastic time.
The thing I remember about you at that event, I mean, I remember a lot about you at that event, but the thing that sticks out the most in my memory is you coming to my tent on that first night, and there was like nothing going on. It was really dark and quiet, and we were sitting around and we were singing Marty Robbins, and it was like, oh, that's not great. We were singing El Paso, and it's like, there's nothing about this that is medieval. We're not doing this. And you were, I think you had told me that you didn't know who Marty Robbins was, and we were like, you've never heard Marty Robbins? What? That's what stands out about me, is that I thought you were dumb for not knowing who Marty Robbins was.
Oh, that's fine. If that's the only thing that stands out about me being dumb, I'm winning. And then I would say that there have been, many, many other wonderful interactions. Like 50th year was super fun. Other events kind of just popping around have been a lot of fun. But I remember, I think it was the first Queen's Favor tourney that I ever fought in. And I believe it was for a Balin on a Reign. And I think we were in a sand pit. And
it was in Fontaine, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We're playing in that volleyball pit.
It was a volleyball pit. It was amazing because anybody that just relied on pure speed, every time they go to take a step, they just couldn't move at all.
Yeah, that was a fun tournament.
All I remember is I guess I had done something well, and then I lined up against you, and you jumped and cracked me in the top of the head before I even realized what was going on. And you kind of just looked at me and said, you're not going to get away with that shit with me. I was like, oh, I can't wait to fight this lefty again, bastard.
Yeah, I remember that tournament that when you fall down, I remember taking a lot of face full of sand. It was like it would just mist into your face. You would hit the ground, even on your knees. Like the sand was not heavy, and it would just get in. That was a fun tournament. I remember that.
It was fun. But then, and this kind of it's more nonsense, but the most recent crown. So it's the first crown I've ever entered and fought in it, and had the opportunity to fight you. And I absolutely love the fights, but I had always heard about people talking about, crown mentality and how you have to, where you need to be for your fights and what you need to be thinking about for it. And I remember lining up against you, and it was late enough in the tournament that I was like, fuck yeah, all right, this is fun. I like this. They're having a good time. And I remember lining up against you being like, man, I really kind of want Bardolf to win. Like, I think Bardolf to be a crown would be amazing. And I just felt all of the fight and all the adrenaline like leaving, and I'm like, oh, this is a really bad time for this to happen.
It was kind of late, right? It was like 4th or 5th round,
something like that. It was I don't know, I had a great time kind of thing, but it definitely was, it gave me that that moment when people talk about the headspace of crown and whatnot. Because I'm usually just a freaking goofball in most of these things, but I was like, all right, I'm moving, I'm doing okay. Like, I'm looking forward to it. I think you killed me, I killed you. And then that last one, I was like, oh, my head is not kabam. That's not here.
That's my magic trick, because honestly, my entire fighting career is just having people underestimate me. That's my whole plan. It's like, oh, you're not as big as your dad. Oh, you're standing next to some duke. You look at that duke. Look over there. Yeah, totally. I remember after one of the crown tournaments that I did fairly well in, Jarl Leaf, I guess he was a Jarl at the time, so it wasn't that long ago, came up to me and said, hey, man, you did really well. I didn't think that – it was like I don't remember exactly what he said, but the gist of it was I didn't think you were that good. Mm. And I was like, that's what I want. Keep doing that, Leaf, because I know you'll just beat me anytime you want to, so –
God, speaking about Leaf, there was one, I think it was just a practice because, we fought every week kind of thing, and it was great. Yeah. And he was always so helpful with his advice. Yeah, man, you suck. I don't really care what you do. Like, I'm not worried about it. Then I top spiked him in the nipple, and he was like, you're never doing that again. I was like, oh, yeah I'm going to keep doing it. But yeah, those are those have been the times that I kind of have been the signposts of our relationship. The only other one, and it stands out to me, and it's something I want to ask you about. It was a coronation, and all the knights came up to swear fealty, and you popped up beside me, and you were like, dude, why doesn't everybody have their sword with them? Like, they gave us these things. We should carry them around all the time.
Yeah.
And So I want to ask you about that. Do you always bring a sword to coronation? Do you always bring it to crown? Do you, when you were Baron, did you carry it around? Like, where do you see that being important, or is it just an affectation almost?
So there's certainly a practicality to it. I don't think you should carry your sword around all the time because it's really hard to set up a tent when your sword's strapped to your hip. And my sword in particular doesn't move like at all. Like I can't barely sit down in a chair while I'm wearing my sword. It's really terrible. But I do think that it's a piece of our regalia. I think that we were given this piece of regalia, and then we should use it, and especially like coronation, because I think coronation is the time that you really show off all your big stuff. It's like that's when we should. If we were putting on a play, that's the biggest play we should be putting on. Mm-hmm. And so I think that for coronation, I think is the really important one. And then when people get offered, I would do that. Like if I knew I was going to go into court, like people being elevated, I would wear it. I usually try to wear it on like one night at an event. Like and Mordigan and I call it sword night. We're doing swords? Is it sword night? We're doing sword night. Yeah. So like, I don't know. We just get excited about wearing our swords. And I like my sword's magical. I like my sword a lot. And it was purchased for me as a gift for my actual knighting. And then the sheath was made by Sir Bohemond. I guess in this context, he could be Master Bohemond because he's a Laurel and a really crafty guy. And it's like
Master
it's like
Sir.
Like, yeah, Master Sir. Yeah, the sheath for it fits so perfectly that I have pinched my finger in between the hilt and the scabbard because it slides in so smooth that I just dropped it absentmindedly, and it fits so perfectly that it pinched my finger and left me a little blister. That's like I don't cut myself on it, but it hurt me from being able to slide so effortlessly into that thing. It's magical. I love my sword. So maybe that's part of it too. I suppose if you don't like wearing your sword because it's uncomfortable, or whatever, you're probably not going to like carry it around.
No, but I think you've raised some good points, and it's something that I'm trying to be better at, especially for, like you said, the larger events. The idea that it doesn't hurt to not put on the third crappiest tunic or whatever.
Right. Yes. Well, and there's also this thing in the Outlands that it's something we don't think about because we're Outlanders, but it does happen a lot in other places, and that is that when we're in fealty to the crown, we don't have to remove our weapons. Which is an old time tradition that we don't really talk about very much. But there is this there is a unspoken trust between the crown and those in fealty that we are trusted as having sworn fealty to the crown. The crown trusts us to not murder them, which I don't think is an unreasonable assumption. But it is a thing that you see sometimes, that somebody will get called into court and then they'll start taking off all their daggers and stuff. And we in the Outlands traditionally don't do that. And so that's another thing. I suppose that if you're in like some big court and you get called into court and you have your sword with you, it's like, how are you going to protect the crown if you're not prepared to protect the crown? Mm-hmm. So there's also some tradition stuff in there too.
There is, but it's so funny that you putting it out in that manner, because it's one of those, while we don't take our weapons off when we come up to our crown, I know that there have been instances where someone else from outside the kingdom walks towards our crown and they might be armed, and you just see a whole bunch of people line up right in front. Like,
yeah, we do that too because we kind of play it up.
Pardon us. We're gonna have to relieve you of all those weapons at the moment.
Who are you in fealty to again? I didn't recognize you.
Didn't quite catch that one. So let me bring in, especially because it's slain of many titles.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It says being second generation probably made it a lot harder to become your own man. How did that feel for the few minutes before you became Sibia's husband and then Ivan and Manoa's dad?
Yeah, I am now no longer my own man. Let's see, how long I was my own man between, I don't know. I love my wife and I love my children slain.
Sorry, Sonara, he has deadpan face. She's just in there laughing on the couch, but she needed to see the expression because it wasn't the loving, like, oh, it's Bardolf, give him a hug and a smile and everything else. It was that, they do love me, I know.
Did that answer the question? I hope not.
I think you're good. And then Sir Roland, pardon me, His Excellency. Let's be very honest. Can you tell the story about Sir Bardolf singing in at gate?
No. Wow, I wish I knew what you were talking about. Maybe send me some prompts or something. I don't know.
One of those.
Harold,
Hum a few bars and I'll catch up.
at what event? What are you talking about, Your Excellency?
Wow. Okay, so we failed at this one.
Apparently.
It's to be careful which pitches we swing at, right?
I know. I'm not thinking of it.
Actually, what's going to be even funnier is because His Excellency has been running a show as well. I think it's the Chivalry podcast.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a long conversation about it then?
No, we didn't talk about anything so silly.
Well, then, okay. Well, let's take a moment. And so what was your inspiration for becoming a knight? Was there a particular experience or something that kind of stroked that desire to be a knight? Or was it just what you saw from being, in your family?
Yeah, so I
would say a master at that point, but we already talked about that, so don't worry about the master knight thing.
Don't assume I want to be a master, man. I don't like it. No, it's fine. I actually didn't want to be a knight. Not that I didn't want to be a knight. It's very flattering. I really enjoy. Oh, I do know this story that Roland. Well, I know part of this story. It was Clan Wars. I was a little drunk. But we're not talking about that anymore, Your Excellency. What was the question? Oh, we're talking about being a knight. Yeah, I didn't actually really want to be a knight, and it's not that I did. I do like being a knight. I think it's part of the game. I really enjoy it. I appreciate it. It's very flattering. I didn't care. I didn't. It wasn't something that I was like really trying to do. I wasn't like looking at like, well, what areas am I lacking, and what do I have to do to get everyone to see me as this thing? It really, really was not my goal at all playing this game. I became a squire because Sir Arton, Duke Arton, who is my in real life godfather, asked me to be a squire. And it wasn't that I was like, I really want to be a squire because I really want to be a knight. It was that this guy I grew up with, he helped raise me, asked me if I wanted to be a squire, and he's been helping me learn how to fight and all this stuff anyway. And so I just became his squire. And then we hung out and we drove places and we did that whole thing. And we would talk about serious stuff. I would go for him if I had problems or anything. It was a very formal squire relationship. But I remember on the night of my vigil, after the vigil was sort of over, that I started reading the comments. I have to close that because I'm getting distracted. I remember after the vigil was sort of over, it was real early. It was like probably 4 or 5 in the morning. It was Estrella, and so it was in the winter, so it was like a long sun doesn't rise until late in the day. And Arton came in and said, "We're kind of done, so do you want to go for a walk?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's go for a walk." And we started just talking about nothing. And I told him at one point, I think I kind of hurt his feelings. I said, a lot of people take this a lot more seriously than I do. And he said, "Well, I take it pretty seriously." And I didn't know how to respond because what I realized was I had hurt his feelings. It's like, here's something that was happening that was really important to him, and I just really didn't care. It was cool. Again, it's flattering. It's great, but it was never my intention to become a knight. Okay. And so I don't. It certainly things change. Certainly my perception of the game changed, but it was not the goal.
And so, how long ago were you knighted?
I was knighted in 2013. Yeah. So it was on March 1st. Yeah. So just a couple weeks ago, 8 years.
Gotcha. Wow. And so then where are you at this side of 8 years? What do you think about in terms of being a knight? What do you think about in terms of young, or in terms of unbelts, or in terms of other people coming up to you and saying, what's great about being a knight, or what are the things that you hold most dear? Or you could, the other Sabia again, thank you, mistress, is asking, do you have a favorite chivalric virtue? Like how would you define your chivalry? How would you define being a knight?
Yeah, the thing I think is really interesting, I think really important, is to think about the role that the peerages can play within the society, that setting the example for the way that we expect people to behave and perform. That's what I think about a lot these days. Is like when I'm out at an event, it's not just me. I have some burden on my shoulders all the time. And think it's a bad thing. I think it's really easy to get into that and think like it's some big responsibility. I want to tell a story, but I do want to answer this question of Mr. Subia's, not my wife. Obviously, humility is my favorite virtue because I have so much of it. Okay, on to my story.
Be careful, or you're going to have the other Sabia on you.
Yeah, she knows. She knows how I am. I was at. Wow, this is a complicated story. How do I reduce this down? We were at Estrella a few years ago when Hrothgar and Ingrid were crowned, and Sir Gareth had been offered admittance into the Order of Chivalry, and he didn't know what he wanted to do, and so we decided we were going to go to a vigil. So we went to a vigil, but we made a stop at the Outlands parties first. Stopping at the Outlands party is a really bad idea if you want to stay coherent. And so we took a long time, and we finally found a vigil. We didn't really know of any vigils because we weren't really paying attention to that kind of stuff, and there was nobody in the Outlands aside from Gareth that was being elevated at that particular juncture. And so we just set off into the night at Estrella War to go find a vigil, and we found one. And it was many hours after we set out on our quest. And so we had originally gone there to show Gareth some traditions because he's like, he had been to a vigil, but he didn't really know, like he hadn't really paid attention before. And so I was like, well, let's go do this. And he had a knight in Kal-bardr, and then he was being sort of foster knighted by Sir Tam, and neither of them were there. And so he felt a little bit rudderless. So we were helping him. So we end up in this vigil at somewhere because we don't know where we are. We're not in the Outlands. We've gone somewhere and we found a vigil. And then
in the wilds of Estrella.
In the wilds, yeah. And we stumbled into a tent. We stumbled. When we got in there, it was me and Sabia and our head lady in waiting, Lady Bevan, and not Gareth. And I remember sitting down at that bench and thinking, where's Gareth? Because this is why we're here. I didn't come here to I don't know this person. I don't know why you're here. And I remember even saying that I started talking, and because Sabia was not yet a peer, and Lady Bevan was not yet a peer, and so they just looked at the knight and said, "It's your turn to talk." So I just started talking, and
dude, what do you think I invited you to the show?
And at one point I said, "This is for a knighthood, right?" I had to clarify with this person I was talking to as to why exactly I was there. I didn't know why you were there. I didn't know why I was there. I had no clue what was going on. And so there's more to the story. Doesn't matter. So then the next day, turns out it is now Sir Finian, who was at the time the Baron of Monsternitris in Adenville.
Okay.
And so he was a landed baron who had been offered knighthood and was sitting on vigil. So then the next day, I come to find out that Gareth was actually at that vigil, went in behind us and talked to him and had a long discussion with him about all of the things that he had set out to do. So Gareth completed his quest. I didn't help, but Gareth did his thing. So the next day was time for Gareth's vigil. And so Finian shows up because they made a deal that he would come and talk to Gareth at his vigil. And so Finian walks into my camp where Gareth is having his vigil. And then Sabia comes over and she says, "That's the guy that we were at last night, and you have to go apologize to him." And I said, "You're absolutely right. I do have to do that." And so I went over and we started talking about it.
Can you be more specific as to why I'm supposed to apologize?
Yeah, is it chivalry, or why are we here again? Yeah. So then throughout the conversation, what I came to realize was he said that he was very grateful that I came in because one of his concerns was that he was already landed noble, and he was worried that becoming a knight was going to make the game not fun. That there was so much pressure being put on him from two directions of being a knight and being a landed baron, and that there was not going to be any more fun to be had. And then in comes this drunk baron who's a knight on a Thursday night at Estrella, just having a good time. Yeah, and no, I don't remember. I kind of remember what I told him. I think I'm pretty eloquent, right? I talk good. And so it turned into a teachable moment that had really nothing to do with my personal wisdom. It had he was gathering wisdom from me, not from my wisdom. Yeah,
you went into the don't do this column, but it's an important column to have.
No, that's the whole point, was that he was okay. That it was like, I wasn't hurting anybody. I wasn't being mean. I was drunk and having a good time in Estrella, but I was also a landed baron and a knight, and it was fine. And he what I helped him with was calming down about, you can still have fun, that you can still do this and still be virtuous and have all of the things that you're worried about be sidelined to your responsibilities.
And so that brings up 2 points for me. The first one being, during my vigil at Estrella a couple of years ago, Sir Gareth came in with his squires, and I feel terrible because I just remember Lordship Ronan being there. I know that there was another one of his squires that has had some injuries and everything else, and I think it might have just been the 3 of them, but it was late and freezing, so I don't remember all the details for it. But sure. I wonder if that was one of the influences, so that Gareth was taking his squires to kind of show them, this is what it is. This is how it kind of works.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Which was, it was incredibly nice. We had a nice conversation and everything else. But I mean, as you may recall from your own vigil, it's one of those. It's a blur. It's an absolute blur all the time. It's like Christmas.
Well, and I think that's part of the ceremony, right? That we sort of go on like sleep depth, food depth, sort of. You start doing like as close as we do to like sun dancing hallucinations that let people come in and barrage you with information, and you come out smarter, I guess. I don't know.
I was very lucky. We had a heater in a small tent, so people actually were staying longer and longer during my vigil, not because they actually wanted to talk to me or impart wisdom, but because it was hovering around 60 degrees rather than around 20 degrees as it was outside.
Yeah, it gets real cold, huh?
Oh yeah, man, it was, and I felt so bad for Master Wolfgang, because he was sitting vigil right next to me in his own tent, and I think he had a candle for warmth.
Yeah, I didn't have a heater or a candle. Yeah.
That is, I'm sorry, that's a convenience I'm willing to endure. Because like the heat ran out, or we ran out of rain and everything else, and His Majesty Bela was my knight, and he just looked at me. He's like, "Okay, we're done. Go try not to freeze to death."
There's nothing. Yeah, right, exactly. So it was like, as much as we like to like play into all these ceremonies, there's a weird thing that happens amongst the chivalry about like, well, I stayed up for 3 days for my vigil, and there's like the weird like masculinity competition, like how much did you suffer to get your peerage, and it's nothing. That doesn't mean anything. If you didn't have an overnight vigil, if you went to bed, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't stress out about that. It's okay.
Just for the ritual bathing in the morning, it was fantastic. But as they were pouring the water on me, they poured it into my boots, and it was ice water. It was just one of those like, woo! I just took off at a sprint right down the middle of Estrella and turned around and came back. Afterwards, I was like, okay, great. What's next, guys?
Bela, His Majesty is really into the ice water, right?
So that was for Sir Johann, Graf Johann. I love that it was at Battlemore, and he was like, we're going to go into the river. And I was like, well, I will go up to my knees in the river. You can do whatever you want. It's your time in the sun, my friend, not mine.
That's right. Yeah. I think my bath was heated. I mean, it was Estrella, so it wasn't, didn't stay warm for very long, but.
Oh no, we used ice water. I think we did the same thing to Sir Adrian, which was absolutely fantastic, because she hates mornings and the cold.
Right.
So, but there was a second part of it, but it's completely waylaid. Oh, actually, no, it's the, this is a great comment. Thank you for putting that one up. Thank you for being such a welcoming force when I joined the SCA. That's all, from Michelle Kavanaugh. And again, just to mirror that sentiment, Bardolf, you were just, that's the mute button. You were as incredibly welcoming to me. But so that's being offered admittance to the chivalry, and then also having just stepped up as landed baron, and it does kind of, it became a bit of a balancing act, but it also was, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I had a great time. And then moreover, since Caer Galen has such a fantastic rapier community and archery community, like I felt as baron, it was my job to be out there and to support those communities. But then they were also just so much fun that it's hard to say like, oh, I had to do extra work. It was one of those, sweet, I get to do all these fun things. Even the equestrian community, who I love that they've been getting more and more involved because they definitely have always been shuttled off to the side. So getting to know them a little bit better was also great.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually not a knight for very long when I became Baron. I was elevated at Estrella in 13, and then I became Baron like a month after Estrella in 14. So I had only been a knight for about a year, and it was. I mean, I was pretty comfortable with it, but it was unexpected. So it did open my eyes a lot. Probably more so being Baron, more so than being a knight, to the way the game really is. I don't know, whatever that means. It's like I got exposed to a lot of people that I probably would not have met otherwise. And so I totally agree with what you're saying. I think it's really, really interesting to get to see all those angles.
And I absolutely loved, I believe this was when you were stepping down as Baron, you and Sabia were stepping down as Baron and Baroness, and the archery community, who Sabia is a very strong part of.
Yeah.
I seem to recall they gave Sabia like a set of arrows, or they gave her a bow. There was something very
scimitar. They gave her a sword.
Okay, I was like, God, they gave her something that was directly related to archery, and then they turned and they said, "Thank you, Your Excellency, for all of your hard work on the archery field, and here's a mace so that you never have to use a bow again in your life."
Yeah, because they said I was not graceful enough to use an edge. Yeah.
Okay, so the true story versus the story that was in my head, but all I know is it was such a fantastic. Like, the community loved you guys that much to be like, we know that this is going to be a fantastic gift for you, Your Excellency, and that you will wield it with grace and beauty as you've done everything else. And here's a rock, Your Excellency.
You're fine. Yeah. Yes. That I was just thinking about. I remembered that I told Roland that I would tell that story, but I don't remember the part about the singing. But what I do remember is going to the archery range, because you said that about archery in Sevilla, and that we were at Clan Wars and we had gone to the archery range and we were watching Tam, who was king at the time, shoot. And maybe I'm getting my stories mixed up. It doesn't matter. What's important is that Barold was standing in the back. We were watching Tam shoot archery, and Sir Barold is in the back with us, and he's mumbling something to Sevilla. This is my version of the story, Roland. You're not telling it. So what I remember was that he was trying to warn Sevilla about me, and that he was saying things like, "You can't trust him. He makes his mark in the sinister." Being very Barold about it. And that's what I remember, was that it was funny, and it was something about Barold trying to warn my wife about me. That's what I remember.
Okay. Well, it didn't
have to do with Sabia and archery. No, yeah. She knows.
She knows. Actually, she has such a fantastic, overly aggressive mom voice. There are snippets of Battlemore Grand Court from the last Battlemore, where she's like,
yes,
"I will make you sit down. I have to stand here with the sword. I don't care. I don't care who put you there. I will take you out right now.
Turn this court around." Yeah.
Don't make me redo this court. Please, no.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there a question about the umbrella? That's the thing about Sabia. It's weird that my relationships are all about my wife. It's fine, whatever. I'm just my dad and my wife. That's all I am.
Well, okay, so if we want to go back, we could probably look at the amount of time that we spoke directly about you and your own virtues on this show, and it's probably directly equal or equivalent to your time as your own man.
That's a good point. Yeah, I told you, I've got a ton of humility. Let's talk about other people.
Oh, okay. So we heard on a recent show you carry a 6-foot umbrella around for your wife at events. Is this really for your wife?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So she sort of explained it, and you should go watch her episode to know about the umbrella. But it's 9 feet. It's a 9-foot wide umbrella. It's really big. But the whole point was that it's a big umbrella. It's not much of a story, right? But I do tend to carry it around. But that's because I really enjoy shade. But it also, but there's more to it, because it does allow for the ability to quickly set up some extra shade for somebody. I can carry it to a list field, and you can stand where nobody else can stand, right? Because very frequently, based on where the sun is, there's like a side of the field that you can sit at if you didn't bring anything. I will all week. Yeah, I'll carry it around all weekend. Yes, I will.
Just go get her. Bring her on the show. No.
very, very frequently there's like a side of the list field that you can sit on because there's shade, and then there's the other side where that's no man's land. You can't go over there because you'll just burn to death. But that's usually where I will go and try and set up some shade. And so it gets to be a sort of service, kind of. And then like sometimes it's just that it's an extra thing. Like I'll throw it in just because it's like I already have my shade tent, but I have this umbrella just in case somebody else needs it. And it's like sometimes somebody needs it. But honestly, it's just a portable hole in an umbrella, so it's really quick and easy to set up.
But actually, what's great about it, and as much as we're harassing you about it through multiple shows,
it's not mine. It's not mine. I'm responsible for it. It's not mine.
So that you're responsible for it. Whatever. Continuing on. It actually really has kind of become a really neat focal point. And again, I'm thinking about Battlemoors where the umbrella goes up on the side of the list field, or you're kind of some of the other umbrellas and shades that you guys have brought. And then it really does kind of become a focal point, not only for the Outlanders to come hang out, but for people from a number of kingdoms. And so, again, just showing that great hospitality that you have, along with your humility.
Well, that's because I don't like walking around. I set up a shade so people come to me. So it's like I'm lazy. That's all it is. I am happy to talk to people, but it's just that I just set myself up in a situation that you have to come talk to me.
So we need to make you a little sign that says the Bardolf is in and out and just flip it around.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. A little like advice for 5 cents, like or whatever. What does the sign say? I don't remember.
Yeah, the doctor is definitely in.
Yeah.
So I know, as much as we can riff on this as well, let's say, all joking aside, you were a great baron and a great knight. Do you think being raised in the game helped you, Slain of many titles? Slane's just going to keep coming back at you with this one.
This is my new game. I'm just not going to answer Slane. No, that's a joke. I do think that it helped me. I think that one of the things that being Baron, I think it really helped me because I very much was intimate with traditions in the game, and I was fairly young. I mean, I was an adult, but I was 25, which at the time was very young for people running baronies. And so I think it really, really helped me because I was already very intimately aware of the barony and the traditions of the barony and the kingdom. And so I think that being raised in it is not something. It's not something that you're going to get from somebody who had only started when they were, 15 or 16 and had been playing for 10 years. So I do think that helped me in that regard. And then being a knight, I think that because I was raised around it, I spent a lot of time in philosophy discussions because my mom and my dad were both very into the philosophy side of it. And so they had a lot of students. And so they very frequently would have people over to the house, or they would organize a philosophy discussion or something, and I would sit in on them. And so by the time I was 13, 14, I was actively participating in these philosophy discussions. And so I do think that helped me be where I am today because I was already engaged in the philosophy of the society and the kingdom.
Okay. Do you have squires now?
I do. I have 2 squires. I have James Ian McCallan and Lord Killian von Ramstein.
Okay. And do you continue these kind of discussions with them, or is it a different individual, so different kind of interests, or? Yes, I do when they show interest. Yes. Okay. I'm very I'm very hands off with my squires. And so when the summer after my son was born, we hosted in my backyard because we weren't getting to go anywhere because we had a little baby. We hosted in our backyard a set of philosophy discussions. Okay. And they were invited to that. And did they show up to any of those? Ugh, I don't know. Maybe Killian did. I don't remember. I don't think James Ian ever did, which is fine. I like both of them. And then right now, Killian moved to the barony of. It's called something. It's in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know what the name of that barony is. Killian moved there, and James Ian is still here and is interested. He doesn't play very frequently, but he comes out. Okay. Cool. I'm just this is my own kind of curiosity in the sense. Yeah, sure. Of, I've had a few very brief discussions with people, and I think they're more asking about what it is to be a squire rather than we want to hitch ourselves to your star because that's going somewhere, buddy. But I look at it and it leads into my questions to you about what are your future interests, your future endeavors, like where do you want to go? We'll all come back from this hiatus, and we'll all, of course, have new shiny armor and we'll look fantastic. But what are things that you really want to see happen? What are the things you want to put your energy towards? Because, I mean, you're a busy dude and you got a family, and time is time, man.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time I've been saying I want to learn how to embroider, but if I didn't do it this year, I'm probably not going to do it. I think that it's weird because growing up in it, it's sort of been on autopilot for me. It's like, yeah, it takes effort to go to events, but it's like, yeah, but that's just what you do. It's like, yeah, I want to go to that event for my own desire, but partially because it's like I've never not been to Outlandish, so I'm just going to go to Outlandish. So my like great desires, only recently have I like started really trying to win tournaments.
Okay.
So that's a weird thing for a knight to say, isn't it? To be like, well, now I'm going to learn how to fight. Like, that's a little dumb.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I just recently in the past couple of years really decided that I would really like to win Crown Tournament, and so I started thinking more in that direction, which is, I don't know, it's like not a unique goal. Lots of people want to be king. But it's yeah, I mean, and it's hard with kids to really get involved in any major ways. But like, I don't know, Sabia ran Crown Tournament when Ivan was a year old. So I don't know, maybe that's nothing. Maybe that's just excuses. Lots of people do lots of stuff while they've got kids. So my dreams right now are to continue hanging out with my extended family of the SCA, and I'd like to win Crown Tournament. Big dreams.
No, I mean, they are big dreams, and especially now where it's one of those, you know, not when this is our interactions are these kind of you know, ESCA or online kind of communities. They serve a purpose, and if nothing else, I hope that the folks watching it or whatever get a chance to not only, you know, get to know you a little bit better, but kind of get that sense of, oh man, I can't wait to get back, or what's that exciting thing. I mean, for all we know, there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to say, you know what, Bardolf, let's sit down and let's teach you how to embroider.
Oh, I know. I said it out loud, out in public. I'm going to have a lot of people offering to teach me, and I'm going to be like, oh, now's not a good time. Oh, now I got to go.
I'm really busy right this minute. So yeah, the shade needs to move. Have you noticed the sun has changed positions in the sky?
I do fiddle with my ropes a lot. I do like walk around and be like, we should go tighten those ropes. I used to get out of conversations a lot. If you see me fiddling with my tent, it's probably because I didn't want to talk to somebody. This is said with respect and love to everyone out there. It's always one of those funny things being Baron, Baroness, or other kind of positions where someone will pull you aside and be like, so we need to get out of a conversation. Just, you know, have a little sign or something like that. Yeah.
And Sonara and I were always joked about it. We're like, no, we're good. We just kind of.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. You know, the best part about this.
it always.
The best part about the show is that I don't actually need you to be there. You could just bail and I'll just continue. It'll be fine.
Yeah. As we would say, carry on.
That's right. Yeah, I never had a problem getting out of a conversation. I think that's something I learned in the SCA was that you can always leave a conversation. Yeah, that's easy.
Well, again, it's that humility that serves you.
And people, you can, and it's mean. That's a mean joke to make because it's like that's a thing in the SCA that happens all the time. That like we have these sort of inside jokes that are like sort of underlying their mean, right? It's not good. Like and we shouldn't do them. It's not a great thing that we do. But I talk to people all the time that I just don't want to talk to anymore. And it's like people that I totally love and respect that I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna go. Fine, bye.
Well, that's why it was you know, come up with a list of people that you'd like to talk to, and it's a very long list, but it suddenly became hey, here's a chance, much like being in the car with somebody driving to an event, where you can kind of be like, dude, I want to let's sit and have a conversation, kind of thing. Because at an event, it is not unusual that we'll be driving home at the end of the event, and Sonara's like, so who did you talk to? And I'm like, everyone.
Yeah. Right.
I had 530-second conversations. I don't remember what they're about. I love seeing every one of them, but I'm exhausted now.
Yeah, that's like the weirdest part of the hobby for me. It's like I do appreciate talking to you and just saying hi, how are you doing? That's it.
Yeah, but that's why I think Mistress Kate and I were just kind of joking the other day, talking about, okay, when do we start planning events again? When do we start kind of thinking about it? What's our time frame for some of these things? And realizing that whatever the first events are going to have to be super, super low impact, because people are going to want to it's going to take 5 hours to get through gate, because it's going to be, oh, hey, how are you? I haven't seen you. Hey, how's it going? Oh, I haven't seen you.
Yeah.
And so, again, going back to the last show, where it's one of those, I think it's going to take us a while to just remember what it is to be a society again.
Yeah.
What it's like to be around people again. So.
Yeah. It's a bizarre time. I mean, and it's not like, I wouldn't expect everybody to show up to the first event they can. I wouldn't encourage everybody to show up to the first event they can, right? Because it's not going to go well. I don't know. That's hard. That's harsh. I don't know that. It might be great, but it just seems like there's going to be a lot of it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be difficult, I think. Yeah.
We're going to need time, and that's okay. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody, kind of thing. I know that as vaccines become more available and as people have the opportunity, it's always great to kind of see. You think you wait till first court? Okay, Don Carlos, that's enough out of you. Thank you very much. It's gonna be fun, but I really think that we need to remember that, if we need to protect our friends, we need to protect our family, and I think we still have a long way to go, even though we're starting to see more light at the end of that tunnel, kind of thing.
Well, and I think it's important to be realistic about it too. We can't just assume that there's going to be a day that it's over. Now we can go about our lives. It's like it's not going to be like that. It has to be a gradual transition.
But to make certain that we end on a very positive.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
You talk about a virtue or something.
Check the name of the show, yo. No. No, I would. Like we said, I can't wait for those opportunities to be able to go visit people and to be able to see people in their lands and to be able to welcome folks, like welcome people to Cairgalen or welcome people to Battlemore, or welcome to whatever event it is. Like that, after a long drive, you kind of like pour yourself out of the vehicle or whatever, and you look up and you immediately see someone that you haven't seen for a while, and it's just kind of like, hey, it's so good to see you, and just that enthusiasm. I'm looking forward to that enthusiasm, and I'm looking forward to making certain that I spread that positivity and that enthusiasm rather than being a curmudgeon-y prick.
Well, and that's something we can do all the time right now, right? Like it's very easy to be on the internet and argue with people. It's a very, very easy thing to do. It's very easy to be mad at people. But like we can be positive now, and we can be nice to people. We can be encouraging and be helpful as much as we can. I think this kind of show helps. And it's something we can do. And then there's stuff we could move on from. Like there's that. When I was Baron, one of the jokes that we tried to avoid saying was the like when somebody volunteers for something and then you say like, oh, my condolences.
Yeah.
It's like, don't make that joke. I mean, I get that it's a joke and we all know that it's a little bit funny, but also like they're giving of themselves. It's like we should want to do this stuff, and it's a cool thing. And there's a lot of anybody who sees you make that joke doesn't know that it's a joke, right?
Yeah. Nope. You are absolutely right, and we've kind of it brings us back full circle to the joke about getting away from conversations. But you're absolutely right. Like telling people I was voluntold or anything along those lines. Like
it's like we can say about it. It's like and you should want to do it, right? Because I've always taken the stance that I would rather have it not happen than have somebody not want to do it, because the person who is there begrudgingly is not going to spread the joy that could be spread by somebody even doing a subpar job. When I was Baron, I very much took the stance of anybody who wants to try gets to try, and that's not true about like just anybody. But it was like if it was somebody who didn't have a lot of experience, I was okay with giving somebody a lot of experience, because rather than have nobody. Because what we're really good at is as a kingdom. I don't know other kingdoms very well, but as a kingdom, what we're really good at is fixing problems. And so if you let somebody who's never tried before make some problems. It's okay. We can fix those problems, but they're never going to figure out how to do it if they think it's lame or boring, or if they never get a chance to try because everyone thought they were going to screw up. It's like, don't assume the worst of people. We can fix the issues as they show up. Oh, you got toilet paper? Well, somebody will bring toilet paper. That'll be okay. We're really good at fixing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I just try to stay positive about most people.
No, I'm going to call it right there, and I'm going to say that's fantastic. So let me go ahead and what was that?
I said show over. Goodbye.
Yeah, just drop the mic. No, so again, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Please be certain to join us for the next episode of Peering at the Outlands, which is going to be Mistress Sabia speaking with Mistress Alamanda de la Roca. It's going to be on Saturday, March 20th at 3:30 p.m. I'm certain that Bardolf and I will have to chime in a couple times to encourage Sabia, as she has been so kind and thoughtful to do for us this evening. And Mistress Alamanda is great. First time I entered an ANS competition, she was one of my judges. And for years, I've continued to come up to her and be like, hey, look at this. And every single time, she's been so incredibly positive. Like, Finn, it's so great you're wearing pants today. So definitely check them out and hear what they have to say. Bardolf, thank you so much again for joining me. It's wonderful to see you. I hope you and your family are doing quite well. And I can't wait to just give you guys hugs and hang out and be positive together, man.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for asking me to be on here. It was really fun.
Okay.